The NBC executives sat across from Dean Martin and laid out the offer. $20 million, 5 more years of The Dean Martin Show, complete creative control, any terms he wanted, any schedule he preferred. It was 1974. $20 million in 1974 was an astronomical sum. Adjusted for inflation, it would be worth over $120 million today, for 5 years of work, for doing what Dean had been doing successfully for 9 years already. Dean listened to the entire pitch, the money, the terms, the flexibility. The executives were confident. This was the kind of offer nobody refused, ever. When they finished, Dean looked at them and said 2 words: "No thanks." The executives stared at him. One of them laughed nervously, thinking Dean was joking. "Dean, this is $20 million. You understand that, right?" "I understand, and I'm saying no. I'm done. The show ends this year." "But why?" another executive asked, genuinely confused. "The show is number 3 in the ratings. You're at the top of your career. We're offering you more money than anyone in television history." Dean smiled. "Because I'm 57 years old. I've been performing for 40 years, and I want to spend time with my family. I want to play golf. I want to be Dean Cricchetti from Steubenville, not Dean Martin, the TV star. Money can't buy that." The executives tried everything, offered more money, offered fewer episodes, offered complete control. Dean said no to all of it. On May 24, 1974, Dean Martin did his final episode of The Dean Martin Show. Same casual style, same one-take approach. He said goodbye to the audience and walked off the set, away from $20 million, away from fame, toward the life he actually wanted. And he never regretted it, not once in the 21 years he had left. To understand why Dean Martin walked away from $20 million, you need to understand where he was in 1974. The Dean Martin Show had premiered in 1965 and became an instant hit. Dean's casual, unrehearsed approach revolutionized variety television. By 1974, the show had run for 9 seasons, 264 episodes. It was the number 3 rated show on television. Dean was 57 years old, at the peak of his fame, at the peak of his earning power. He could command any price, any terms. Any network would have been thrilled to have him. But Dean was also exhausted. He'd been performing professionally since he was 15 years old, 42 years of shows, clubs, concerts, movies, television. He'd been Dean Martin, the performer, for so long that he'd almost forgotten what it felt like to just be Dino Cricchetti. His children were grown. Some had families of their own. Dean had missed a lot of their childhoods because he was working, always working. Shows, tours, movies, television. There was always another gig, another paycheck, another opportunity. And Dean was realizing that all those opportunities had cost him something. Time with his family, time to just exist without a schedule, time to figure out who he was when he wasn't performing. In early 1974, Dean made a decision. The Dean Martin Show would end after...
"I don't want to negotiate," Dean said. "I want to be done." "But you could make millions." "I've made millions," Dean said. "I don't need more money. I need more time." NBC got wind that Dean was thinking about ending the show. They panicked. The Dean Martin Show was one of their most valuable properties. Losing it would be a disaster for their Thursday night lineup. NBC executives scheduled a meeting with Dean. They came prepared with an offer they were certain Dean couldn't refuse. The meeting took place in February 1974 at NBC's Burbank offices. 4 executives, Dean, his agent sitting quietly in the corner, already knowing this wasn't going to end the way NBC hoped. The senior executive, a man named Herbert Schlosser, led the presentation. "Dean, we understand you're thinking about ending the show. We're here to tell you that's not necessary. We want to make this work for you, whatever it takes." Dean nodded. "I appreciate that, but I've made my decision." "Hear us out first," Schlosser said. "We're prepared to offer you a 5-year contract, $20 million. That's $4 million per year, the most money anyone in television has ever been paid." Dean's agent inhaled sharply. Even knowing Dean wanted to quit, that number was staggering. $4 million a year in 1974 was generational wealth. "Complete creative control," another executive added. "You do the show however you want. Keep the casual format, keep the one-take approach. We don't change anything. Any schedule you want, fewer episodes if you prefer, more vacation time, whatever makes it work for you." They laid it all out. The money, the terms, the flexibility. It was the kind of offer that careers are built on, the kind of deal that sets up your children and grandchildren for life. When they finished, there was silence. Everyone waited for Dean to respond, to negotiate, to ask for more. That's how these meetings usually went. Dean looked at each executive. Then he said, "No thanks." Schlosser thought he'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "No thanks," Dean repeated. "I appreciate the offer. It's generous, but I'm not interested. The show ends this May."
"Dean," Schlosser said carefully, "this is $20 million. Do you understand how much money that is?" "I do," Dean said, "and I'm still saying no." "But why?" another executive asked. "We're giving you everything. Money, control, flexibility. What more could you want?" Dean leaned back in his chair. "You're giving me everything except what I actually want, which is time. Time to be with my kids. Time to play golf. Time to wake up without a schedule. Time to be Dean Crecchetti from Steubenville instead of Dean Martin, the TV star." "But the money," Schlosser started. "I've made enough money, more than enough. My kids are taken care of, I'm taken care of. What I don't have is time, and your $20 million can't buy me that." The executives looked at each other. This wasn't going according to plan. Nobody walked away from $20 million. Nobody. "What if we made it $30 million?" one executive suggested. Dean shook his head. "It's not about the amount. It could be $50 million, $100 million. I'd still say no, because what I want isn't something money can buy." "What about 10 episodes instead of 24?" another executive offered. "Less work, same money." "It's not about the workload," Dean said. "It's about the commitment. I don't want to commit to 5 more years of anything. I'm 57 years old. I've been working since I was 15. I'm tired. I want to rest. I want to live." The meeting lasted another hour. The executives tried every angle, appealed to Dean's ego. "You're at the top of your game. Why quit now?" Appealed to his legacy. "Think about your place in television history." Appealed to his sense of responsibility. "What about the crew, the writers, the people who depend on this show?" Dean listened to all of it. Then he gave the same answer. "No thanks. I'm done." Finally, Schlosser accepted defeat. "We can't change your mind?" "You can't," Dean said, "but I appreciate you trying." On May 24, 1974, Dean Martin taped the final episode of The Dean Martin Show. The audience didn't know it was the last episode. NBC had decided not to announce it publicly, still hoping Dean might change his mind. Dean did the show exactly the way he'd done every other episode for 9 years. Showed up 30 minutes before taping, looked at cue cards for the first time, did everything in one take, casual, loose, himself. At the end of the show, Dean did something unusual. He addressed the camera directly. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is my last show. I've had a great run, 9 years. You've been wonderful, but it's time for me to do something else. Thank you for watching. Thank you for laughing, but I'm going to go play some golf now." The audience gasped. Some people started crying. Dean smiled, waved, and walked off the set. That was it. No big finale, no special guests, no retrospective. Just Dean being Dean, saying goodbye in the simplest way possible. The next day, newspapers across America ran headlines about Dean walking away from the Dean Martin Show. Most focused on the money he'd turned down. "Dean Martin walks away from $20 million," one headline read.
Martin chooses golf over gold, another said. Industry insiders were baffled. Other performers thought Dean was crazy. "Do you know what I would do for that kind of money?" one comedian said in an interview. "I'd work until I dropped dead."
He did some concerts, made a few TV appearances, but it was all on his terms. No long-term contracts, no commitments, just showing up when it felt right and staying home when it didn't. People would occasionally ask him if he regretted walking away from NBC's offer. Dean always gave the same answer: "Best decision I ever made." In interviews over the years, Dean elaborated on that decision. "I made enough money in my career to live comfortably. My kids are taken care of. What more did I need? Another 20 million? To do what? Buy more things I don't need? Work more years when I could be living?" "I got to spend real time with my grandchildren," Dean said in a 1985 interview. "I got to play golf every day. I got to wake up without an alarm clock. I got to be me. You can't put a price on that." Well, NBC did. They put a $20 million price on it, and I said, no thanks. Dean's decision had an impact beyond his own life. It started conversations in Hollywood about work-life balance, about knowing when enough is enough, about the difference between having money and having a life. Other performers started asking themselves the same questions Dean had asked. Am I working because I want to, or because I think I'm supposed to? Am I choosing money, or am I choosing life? When Dean Martin died on Christmas Day, 1995, his obituaries mentioned the $20 million he'd walked away from, but they also mentioned something else: that Dean had lived his final 21 years on his own terms, that he'd chosen time over money, that he died peacefully with no regrets. The lesson of Dean Martin walking away from $20 million isn't about rejecting money. It's about understanding what money can and cannot buy. Money can buy comfort, security, opportunities, but it cannot buy time. It cannot buy back the years you missed with your children. It cannot give you the freedom to just exist without obligation. Dean understood that. At 57, after 42 years of performing, he understood that he had enough money. What he didn't have enough of was time. So he chose time, and he never looked back. If this story of choosing life over money moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that it's okay to walk away from success if that success is keeping you from living. Leave a comment about what you would choose, more money or more time, and ring that notification bell for more incredible stories about people who understood what really matters.